The growing calls across the nation to defund the police.
To end policing as we know it.
Off the charts violence in New York City. 11 people shot in just 8 hours on Sunday.
This is about the police officers who every single day put on that uniform and they run towards danger when we run away from it.
Guns up. Nailed it.
I started talking because I can't believe that the show is just starting. Welcome to Failure to Stop. We can't stop, we won't stop. It's the #1 show where law enforcement meets culture. Although our guest today, Jason Piccolo, may disagree. He may say that The Protectors, his podcast, is the #1 podcast. I mean, he'll be wrong. That's okay. But we love him anyway. Welcome to Failure to Stop. We are live as well. If you listen to the show, whether it's on your mobile device, on your television, on your iPad or tablet, if you're an Android user and smoke crack, wherever you listen to the show, thank you. But we also broadcast this live every Friday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. And heck yeah, the chat is always the place to be. So join in. Speaking of which, Eric, where is Amber? We need an APB out for Amber. She's been gone. I haven't seen her in 2022.
Oh, Amber HHHHH.
Amber, all the H's. Yeah, she's gone.
Interesting.
Everybody says turn my mic up. I don't know what's going on with that, underpaid producer.
I've been saying the mic stuff all morning, so that's not on me. Today's show is brought to you by DJ Mike Brock. Literally, without DJ Mike Brock, who's the new overpaid producer.
Is he your bear and you're his otter? Because you literally sold your body this morning. You literally sold your young-looking otter body for a cable to bring to the studio so that you could be on the show today.
Thank God
tell us the story. What happened here?
Thank God I manscaped this morning.
Yeah, no kidding.
Didn't know I was
had that lawnmower to clean you up and make you nice and sleek so you could move through the snow. Do you guys have snow in?
I'm gonna start calling him
North
DJ
Carolina right now?
I'm gonna call him DJ Mike Cock instead of Mike Brock now. I've done a lot of weird things for some things, but I've never gotten that weird all for a USB-C cable.
Amber HHH is here.
She's back, baby. We missed you.
Did she see the failure to stop the guns up, giddy up signal in the sky?
Well, a lot of people, not a lot, but I get probably like 2 or 3 messages where people apologize to me where they're like, hey, sorry I wasn't in the chats this week. I didn't get a notification on my phone until, X. And I'm like, you don't have to apologize. It's not like that. I noticed. You know what I mean?
Well,
like I'm really shallow.
You should lie and tell them you did notice.
Oh, I totally missed you. It threw me
I
off
have no
my
idea,
game.
guys. I apologize for any audio issues. No clue what's going on. We're down a producer, and this is why the underpaid producer will always be underpaid, because he can never really get it right.
I don't know what it'll take, but like one episode, we're going to come into the studio because it doesn't matter how early we come in. We're always waiting till the last 2 seconds to like be like, okay, we're good. We're actually going to have a show today. Like for those of you who don't know, it's always within like 10:58. And like, there's still no guarantee that we're going to have a show at 10:58. It's like 10:59. They're like, boom, we got it. Mics are up. Headphones are going. Let's go. Let's do this.
I was running so late today. I got up. I went with my sons to the gym, and we were running a little bit behind with that. And then the underpaid producer beats me to the studio. I ran home to grab breakfast and grab my smoothie for lunch and all that stuff. So I'm scarfing my food. I'm getting ready to head back out the door, and he texts me and says, just so that you know, there's no water here for coffee. Like, the coffee machine is empty because we have no water. So I had to drive through the snow at great peril, at great risk to my own life and limb, to obtain water to have coffee so that I could actually do the show. Because without this, I would be incapable of doing a podcast. It's absolutely an essential element,
Mm-hmm. No,
but I didn't have to sell my soul. I didn't have to pretend to be a different sexual orientation in order to obtain that coffee and get any cables. So I feel like I'm having a better day than you.
A USB-C is a USB-C. $20
you know
is $20.
what I mean.
USB-C
You got
is USB-C.
You got a converter, if you know what I mean, my friends.
Cockverter.
On today's show, we've got Jason Piccolo again. If I haven't mentioned that, he is the author of the book Unwavering, from I can't remember the subtitle. What is it? From hunting to being hunted, from being the hunter to the hunted. I don't know. Put that book up on the screen so I can say the title right.
I don't know what the
His
title
book.
of the book is.
Unwavering, second edition. That's the one that I have. Yeah. Anyway,
Have you ever seen the movie
But
The
there
Hunted?
was like a subtitle to it. He'll tell us when he comes on.
Have you ever seen the movie The Hunted with Benicio del Toro? I like
know.
that movie. I like that movie as a kid.
Is
I
it
really
good?
did.
I don't remember it.
I mean, when
Anyway,
you're a kid, it's good.
we have him on the show today. He's got literally a career of experience from the Army to the Border Patrol to a variety of alphabet agencies, and in 2015 had I guess blown the whistle, brought attention to how homes that illegal alien children were being placed into, that they were violent homes, and the people that they were like basically their sponsors, don't trust me for the terminology, weren't the best of people. And he brought that to the attention of the world, and that led to some policy changes in DHS. And he's got tons of experience with human trafficking. You know that's a topic that Eric and I have talked about on the show very early on. I think at episode 2 or 3 we had Dan Holloway on, and it was all about government-sponsored trafficking. So lots to talk about today, I'm sure. But a couple of things in the news that caught our attention this week that we want to just toss out there to warm us up today. First is whoopsie. Whoopi made a whoopsie, didn't she?
You mean Karen? You mean Karen Johnson?
Karen, what's her real name? Is it Johnson?
Yeah.
Karen, she's a real Karen. Is that also her real name, or are you just saying that?
No, it's her real name.
Oh, okay.
That's
I
her
don't know what
God.
her real name
That's her
is.
God-given. Her God-given government name.
She,
I'll read the whole thing out for you. It's
what happened? Catch us up if people aren't paying attention.
Her real name is Karen Elaine Johnson, and rumor has it she changed her name to Goldberg because of all the Jews in Hollywood, and she thought if she had a Jewish name, she would move up there. It's just what I've heard. I don't know how true that part is, but Goldberg's a Jewish name for sure. I know that, so it does make sense.
Yeah, it absolutely is.
You know what though? I don't believe in really like real cancel culture unless you want to just cancel communism. Like, I mean, I'm pretty sure that we could all be on the same page as that, or we should
I
be.
mean,
but
I would like The View to be canceled, but not due to cancel culture.
right, like nobody.
I mean,
likes
I hate
that
the show. I think it's
Yeah,
terrible.
the show is
But
awful.
I don't want it to be canceled because of cancel culture. I just want it to go away.
In this
Who is that?
scenario, was not Whoopi Goldberg, but in this scenario,
Find a photo of her.
You couldn't find a photo of Whoopi
No,
Goldberg.
She just looked at distraught. She has a weird smile and
how
everything.
can you not
That's
find
not
a
even
picture
Whoopi
of
Goldberg.
Whoopi Goldberg?
I know.
Pictures are readily available of Whoopi Goldberg. Again, underpaid for a reason.
Again, she's another. Why is it that all of these people, Trudeau, Lori Lightfoot, Whoopi Goldberg, why do they all look like the bad guy from a comic book movie?
It
They all
is. I
do.
think I have this theory about life that it is entirely a self-fulfilling prophecy, and it's driven by movies. So we see something on the screen that somebody dreamed up, and then we sort of like live into it. And so we're actually creating Gothams around the country.
Oh.
And these people are evolving. Politicians are evolving into mutant bad people.
Right.
It's really
sense.
happening. Lightfoot is an example of that.
Wish I could turn into
she's a
Rocky.
mutant. And so, yeah, that's what's happening. And Newsom is like also the quintessential handsome bad guy, you know, that has like the evil layer.
That's Trudeau too. Trudeau is
Trudeau,
like,
same way.
dude, when he talks, it gives me chills. Hillary Clinton, same way. When she talks, it gives me chills. But in this case, Whoopi Goldberg, are we going to cancel her for being like retarded, just dumb?
Ooh, man,
Because
you
I
said the R word.
don't feel like she's racist. I feel like she's just dumb.
Yeah, no, it's ignorance.
I'm not sure that, like, I think that really she just did not know that the Jewish people were a race.
I don't think that she knows that. I think she
And I
literally
don't know that you
just thinks
fire somebody for being
that
stupid.
they're not a race. They're just regular white people from America
Right.
that have Berg or Steen on the end of their name. That's the
Yeah.
extent of her Jewish understanding
Yeah.
of the Jewish people.
again, which is why we should not be looking to celebrities and politicians of the like for life advice or for like, I hate when people say like, I didn't vote to Trump because I would never want my kids to grow up to be like him. That's good. I think you're on the right track there. You should not
Right.
want your kids to be like any of these politicians ever. That would be awful. I'd rather my kids be heroin dealers than be politicians.
That's intense.
But Whoopi Goldberg, I feel for her. I honestly think that she's probably a supporter of Jewish people. She's probably not a hater. I mean, she gave herself a Jewish last name. I think this was a case of being a dummy. And I
She's a
don't think
wolf
that
in
you
Jews'
fire
clothing,
somebody
man.
for just being dumb. But, on the side note, she does look like Grimace to me from McDonald's. Every time I see her, I'm hungry for McDonald's. So it's a great ad campaign there, especially when she wears all purple.
Yeah, it's perfect. And speaking of cancel culture, we Joe Rogan, that we had all these irrelevant singers, Neil Young, who gets like 100,000 downloads a month compared to Joe Rogan's 11 million per episode, decided that he would try to step to Spotify and threaten them with essentially what is saying, I'm going to take my drop of water out of your bucket if you're not careful, guys.
Yeah.
And they said, thanks, but no thanks. We're going to keep Joe Rogan on. So
And then Taylor Swift's, she's talking about like pulling her shit down.
who cares, man? Good.
Come on,
I-
Taylor, you're better than that, girl. Come on,
The-
Tay.
Listen up, everyone, that if you are somebody who maybe you're an entrepreneur, you have a business, maybe for some crazy reason you're already the head of an organization or a business. You may be high up in a police department. You may be a couple of years out from being chief or some kind of public safety director. Listen to me really good. The people that are going to be the most successful and have the greatest impact on this culture are people who are going to stand up and say, no, I'm tired of the bullshit. We're going to call crimes. We're going to arrest criminals and we're going to prosecute criminals, and we're going to call things what they are, and we're going to go after it, and we're going to just be able to be grown-ups and have opinions and live life. Be bold, because that's where the business is going to go. Spotify stock rocketed, but you know what plummeted this week? Facebook. So once you start hitting people where their money is, and a lot of people are talking about these principles these days of canceling and all that stuff. I laugh, man, because people talk about like the NFL, the kneeling in the NFL, everything that they've done, they've gone woke, and you still support them with your money. Your principles are bullcrap. And I got accused this week on social media of being part of cancel culture. There was a lady who is an actress with some company, and she had this TikTok that went viral where she said that they shouldn't have closed down the streets for this officer's funeral who was killed. He was probably doing his job badly anyway. And I shared the video, and my caption was, "She seems nice." Like, that was it. And people piled on saying, "Oh, you want to whine about cancel culture, you want to complain about cancel culture, but then you are doing the same thing." I'm like, no. Calling things what they are and exposing them. I didn't ask her I didn't say, I hope she gets fired. I didn't say, I hope anybody comes down on her. That's her voice. She wanted it to be heard. She made a public video and put it out there. I amplified the message and gave her what she wanted. That's different. Exposing is not canceling.
Right.
Critiquing other people's views is not canceling. The problem isn't that somebody disagrees with Joe Rogan. The problem isn't somebody that disagrees with Whoopi Goldberg. That's not the problem. The problem is when you want to silence people you disagree with. That's the heart of cancel culture. And I don't want anything to do with it.
And you know what? Like, I also don't understand is like why we don't want to have like conversations into what people are thinking. I would want her to expound freely on what she really believes was going on with the Jews. And I don't necessarily disagree with her. If you actually listen to Whoopi Goldberg here, I know that's hard to do, but if you open your mind and just listen to her for a second, she was actually saying that it wasn't really having to do with the color of someone's skin. It had to do with evil, and it had to do with the eradication of somebody who had different beliefs and ideals than you, because Hitler felt like that the Jewish people were controlling things, overwhelmingly, monetarily, whatever.
Right.
And he wanted to eradicate them. That's what she's saying. And so, again, poor choice of words. And obviously she's wrong, but I don't know that she's a bad person for that. Right. Like, I mean, I think those are kind of natural things that if you're ignorant in something and you still have an idea of what's going on, it's not the worst thing in the world you could say. So, I mean, I'm not like the whole Whoopi Goldberg, like even the suspension thing. Like, I think it's just something we should all just be discussing and making fun of her, publicly shaming her. It's like when John Cena, called that one country a country, but it's not. It was
Taiwan or whatever
subsect of China or whatever it is. Like, I didn't know that. I mean, I'm a C student at best, but not saying he's having to apologize to the Chinese public in Chinese. This is all just dumb. Like,
it's
why
a
can't we
weird
just
cycle. You say something
It's all
that
stupid.
may be in ignorance or whatever else, and that doesn't fit the media narrative. Even if majority of people agree with you, if it doesn't fit the narrative of those in control of broadcasting and media, well, then you gotta have the heartfelt apology. You gotta let time go, and then you gotta do your social penance. It's just a ridiculous cycle.
It is, and I'm not defending Whoopi Goldberg, right? She's guilty of doing this to other people as well. I mean, she's getting a taste of her own medicine, and I'm kind of okay with that personally. But like, I think the whole thing across the board on all sides of the fence, I think it's stupid. I think when somebody says something out of context, I don't know that we have to go on what their intent was when they said it. And nobody knows what her intent was because we cut her off and just started making fun of her and shaming her without actually letting her explain herself. And I know that she doubled down on that comedy show, and I watched it, and I think I understand where she was coming from out of ignorance. I mean, she was agreeing that Hitler was evil. Just in her views, she sees racism as the color of someone's skin and not
weird.
Yeah,
And the Holocaust was pretty racist.
Maybe you guys are all going to disagree with me, and that's fine. But again, this is just like my opinion on the subject. I think that too often we all just look for one thing that somebody misspeaks, and then we just go to town on it. And instead of letting them apologize and move on, we have to go through all this rigmarole of canceling and yada yada. I mean, same with the Neil Young and the Joe Rogan thing. He doesn't like he doesn't like the people that Joe Rogan interviews. So now all of a sudden we have to make a big skeptical of everything instead of just saying, "Oh, I don't like that," and just moving on with your life. You've got to
there's an account, Tank's Good News or something like that, and we gotta move on. But I saw him make a really good analogy. He was like, "Listen, if you disagree with Joe Rogan, that's fine, but you can't." Demanding that he be silenced because he doesn't think like you is a bad path to go down. It'd be like sitting at a restaurant and you overhear one guy talking to another guy and asking him some questions about what he thinks, and you don't like his answers. You think they're bad. You think they're wrong. You think they're dangerous ideas or whatever else. And you get up and go tell the manager that you demand you're not going to eat there unless they're removed. And it's like, how arrogant do you have to be to think that unless someone thinks exactly like you, that they shouldn't have the right to speak? It's so arrogant, and it's so painfully ironic or hypocritical to be in a world that's supposed to value tolerance, where we want to silence people that don't agree with what we think. It's silly. It's just, we're not going to be able to, until we broadly, I think, as a culture, unite around the fact that it's okay to disagree. Then I don't know what hope there is unless people can come together and accomplish a common goal of living a good life with character and integrity while disagreeing about some things. I think that's critical.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
anyway,
what is The View anyway? I mean, how many people watch The View anyway? Is there a lot?
Not as many as listen to Joe Rogan. I can promise you that.
Right? Yeah. It's like
Joe Rogan is the king right now. He is the media messiah. Between him and Andy Frisella and freaking Project Veritas, there's a few people there, but All right, we got to get to these reviews. Let's see what the Wolfpack has been saying. Thank you guys so much. When you go drop a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts, it's hugely helpful. But hey, support Spotify too. Listen to the podcast on Spotify there. Drop a follow as well. You can leave, you can do a rating. You can't type a review on Spotify, but you can follow, like subscribe, and you can hit the notification bell on Spotify, and you can leave a 5-star rating on Spotify as well. All that, I'm sure, helps us. Thank you to the Wolfpack for uniting around the show, always giving the support. We appreciate it. What do we got? Tyler Yawn came from Mike, left with Tansey. 5 stars. Wish there could be more than 5 stars. Love the content. Hope you guys get more influencers like Donut Operator on the show. Yeah, well, Cody, answer my text and we'll get you on the show. But I doubt if he's listening to this because we're not good enough for him. Okay. Clay50, amazing show, 5 stars. This show takes me back to when I worked the road. The news, the stories, the banter are amazing. They make me want to strangle bait in the shower. What? I didn't see that coming. That's what she said. That's what he said, apparently, in the shower, maybe. Wow.
Be careful.
I've never heard that phrase, strangle bait.
You've never heard of a strangle bait?
No.
What?
No.
Strangulation? Where you choke yourself while you masturbate?
Yeah, I guess.
Have you never been to a suicide
I heard
where
the guy
somebody's
from the guy from Kung Fu killed himself with autoerotic asphyxiation.
Yeah,
I've
it's
heard
the
of
same
that.
thing. It's just strangle baiting, autoerotic asphyxiation.
I don't feel like I could focus on those 2 things at once.
Yeah,
that's a skill. I'll give him that.
I haven't done it yet. I'm not saying I'll never try it. I just want to do it safely. Like, is there like a shaman that we can like get? You know what I mean? Like those people that
like
take
help you
through,
go
like,
up Everest.
Yeah. Like, you know, like, hey, watch over me. And like, once I like, but before I do that, what I really want to do, Mike, and this is something I've always wanted to do is I do want to masturbate almost to completion. And right before it's over, somebody tases me. I ride the lightning for 5 seconds. And then as soon as that's over, I release.
Wow. He's taken from the stream. Come on, bring it back. The underpaid producer did not want to hear the ending of that.
It's not his show, so I don't give a shit. He wants to hear.
Last review, Ace2179999. Wow, 5 stars. Came here for the ads, left happy. The Wolfpack loves the ads, baby. They love the ads. Speaking of which, we have our flagship sponsor today is GhostBed. Let's do our read and get our guest on here after all. He's been waiting 23 minutes. I'm sorry, Jason.
I'll tell you what, if I'm strangle baiting, then that's I'm doing it on a ghost bed.
Not on my ghost bed, you're not.
well, never say never. We love Ghost Bed. They have been a loyal sponsor for the Drinking Bros for the past 5 years. Everyone rants about them, raves about them. They have super comfortable mattresses that last forever, and they're made in the good old
USA.
USA. See what I did there? I just made things happen.
Okay, USA.
Every mattress has 20-year warranty. Some even have 25. You can try it out. Not for 101 nights. No, for 101 nights. Not for 98, not for 99, but 101. If you don't like it, you can easily return them, but you won't. One of our favorite parts about Ghost Bed is that each mattress has that cooling technology. So while you're staying hard, you can stay cool, baby. Ghost Bed also offers bundles so that you can get everything you need. You don't even have to really think about it. Just choose from their 4 mattresses and pick your bundle. Whether you just need a mattress or a frame or you want it all, I want it all.
No, I want it all.
No, I want it all.
I want it all.
And I want it now.
Right now.
Did Neil Young write that? You can get the best bang for your buck. Get those cooling pillows and sheets. But right now, GhostBed is offering 40% off the GhostBed bundles where you get the mattress and adjustable base or everything for 30% off using that promo code Drinkin' Bros. That's DRINKIN Bros at ghostbed.com/Drinkin' Bros. You can buy a mattress for like $35 a month, 0 down, 0% financing. Again, that's if you have Lazaro Lopez credit. Check it out at ghostbed.com/Drinkin'
Bros. Hey, someone asked in the chat real quick where the Hambo shirt was. Elijah, while you're producing this show, once we get Jason on here, go make a coupon code on tacticalanimals.io.
I've never done that.
Figure it out.
I'll try.
Wolfpack.
Okay.
If you got to check these shirts out. And anybody that uses the code Drinkin' Bros, I'm going to use that money to buy Eric a supply of USB-C cables so that he will never have to beg from a gay man to get a cable again.
God. The things I had to do this morning.
Let's jump Jason into the chat. and get this going. Bro, you're so patient. I'm sorry. I lied. I told him 15 minutes, and here we are, 20. We get rolling, and we start talking about Whoopsie and Joe, and I don't know. I'm sorry.
I'm just glad to be on the top-rated law enforcement podcast in the world.
By the way, that's completely made up. We don't know. I don't really know how to even verify that. We just say it.
We were top 25 trending on iTunes for a hot second. That was cool. We did that thing with the what's her name, Sarah Silverman. We were beating her, so that was fun.
You are the 0.5% global rank. So out of 2.6 million podcasts, you guys are 0.5% according to Listen Notes.
Wait, I didn't even know about this site.
I don't even know about that.
Listen Notes.
I've never looked.
What is this?
Your global rank. So what is your listen score? Your listen score is 55. It's a metric that shows the estimated popularity of this podcast compared to other RSS-based public podcasts. In the world, on a scale of 0 to 100, you're 55. Now, your global rank, this podcast is one of the top 0.5% most popular shows out of 2.7 million podcasts globally, ranked by listen score.
Man,
somebody get the taser. Somebody get the taser. Get me a shaman.
No.
Do you have to be in your shower for the taser? That's the thing. I am unfortunately just 1%, so you guys will have that. Have that accolade of being the 0.5%.
So we're edging you, as it were.
Edging, tipping, edging, something along those lines.
I mean, that's more Eric's. There's a lot of erotic energy going on today's show, guys. I don't know what's happening.
Well, when you start the morning off trying to get a USB-C cable, that happens.
When you beg a gay man for a USB-C cable, things just go that direction. You know what it is. Didn't wake up planning that, but it happened.
Oh man,
it is what it is. Jason, give the listeners a little bit of your background. I want to dive right in on kind of like where maybe Tarantino this thing. Talk about now and talk about our circumstances now with human trafficking and things like that, and then work it back through your experiences. But let's hear a little bit about your story, where you started in the Army, and kind of like walk us to modern times.
So 1990s, enlisted guy in the Army, 13 Bravo, artillery guy, got out, went to National Guard, went intel in the Guard. In 2000, I commissioned, actually 99, I commissioned as an infantry officer, but then instead of going back active duty, I went into the U.S. Border Patrol, did that for about 2.5 years, and I became a special agent on the Southwest border with U.S. Customs / ICE, working the high-intensity drug trafficking area stuff around there. Got recalled, did a tour in Iraq in 2006. And then what else did I do? Came back. I went to work for a Department of Defense, working the Guantanamo Bay investigations for a bit. Then I jumped over to another DoD faction for a little while. I shouldn't call it faction, another DoD agency. nothing crazy. And then I went on to work with ICE for a bunch of years. Worked at ICE headquarters. Eventually I was a fugitive operations supervisor. Went to the operations at headquarters. Did a whole bunch of stuff with them. Eventually got assigned to the DHS Human Smuggling Cell, which falls under the White House Security Council. Worked for them for a bit until I found out exactly what is going on behind closed doors and what's going on with all these kids at the border. And then I essentially blew the whistle. In between all this stuff, married, bunch of kids, 2 kids, not a bunch.
It's a bunch for these days standards.
And then what else did I do? Got a bunch of education. Thanks to the US government.
The only thing I've gathered so far is that you're a field artillery guy.
Yeah, I was back in the day.
Field artillery guy. We know how the Army likes acronyms. Field
artillery
guy. Field
Let me say
artillery guy.
A 13 Bravo cannon crew member assigned to a self-propelled howitzer.
Okay. But you know the acronym there, right? Field artillery guy. Okay.
Field artillery guy. Yeah, fact.
Yeah.
Just there's nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that. I feel like somebody didn't think that through when they came up with that term.
Yeah,
they came up with that term in the early Civil War at some point, but they should have thought that. They should have thought forward.
Yeah, there was a forward artillery guy too.
Could have been like field artillery men, and then you would have been FEMS.
Bunch of
FEMS.
The violent FEMS. That's where that's where that came from. I don't know. Nice.
Mike,
so
you said you wanted to jump right into the Southwest border stuff, right? Or trafficking?
Well, you got a wealth of experience, much of which is in your book. I did see someone in the chat said they bought the first edition at least. I think they must have done paperback or hardcore or whatever. I don't know what it is.
Don't buy that first edition.
It's too late.
Ooh.
They did it. I think they did it. They said they paid $15 for some version.
I
got it on Kindle. It's cheaper.
The book is priced at cost. I don't make any money on it. I don't want to. I just kind of want to spread awareness of what's going on. I still have a ton of contacts in the border area and the different agencies. So my big thing with the book and everything was just, hey, you know what? We got to shine a light on what's going on the border. People should kind of know what's going on based on my experience here and there and based on my friend's experience. Whoever bought that book for $15, I'll gladly send you a copy of the new edition. There's a long story behind that, and it'll probably take us 4 hours. But yeah.
Nice. Well, did your book have to go through DOD?
No, it didn't. I didn't put in anything in there that wasn't sensitive or could be exploited. A lot of what I did is open source, and we'll get into the whistleblowing and how to effectively blow the whistle if you are in law enforcement legally later on, if you'd like. But no, nothing. I didn't put anything in there that wasn't open source and wasn't really blatantly out there. And I changed the names of everybody in the book except, Trump and stuff like that.
Right. And you were also before I forget, and we'll let you pimp all your socials later too, but you're the host of the Protectors podcast, so we commend you guys to check that out as well. So, but my first question to you is, what can you tell us about these mysterious busloads? I saw the other morning 4 busloads throughout the day in some place in Florida. Not families, right? Because the government seems to be telling us, Jen Psaki seems to be saying, our borders, we don't turn away children, so it's families we're focused on. And I saw a video, again, this could be doctored, it could be 10 years ago, I don't know. The fashion of the Mexicans, I can't put a date on it, so I don't know what year it is in this video. It could be doctored. I'm not verifying it, but the video had 4 busloads through the day of young, all appear to be 18 to 24-year-old, like able-bodied males getting dropped off, given cards, given God knows what, and then sent off into the wild. There's these airplanes that are flying under the cover of darkness and landing in random places, and they're just like, well, see you later. What the hell is going on? What's your take? You've been around enough alphabets to know maybe an informed opinion that I can't have. So talk to us about this.
Let's talk about informed opinion. We're not even going to go opinion here. We're going to go with straight facts, Mike. And I want everybody out there to go to cbp.gov, type in Southwest Border Apprehension data. You don't have to do it now, but you can do it later on. You can get these facts right now. Well, let's talk about kids at the border. 38,000 unaccompanied single minors at the border in the past 3 months, October, November, December. Just kids. Adults. Guess how many adults? 3 months.
2 million?
Nah, 328,000.
Oh,
that's still a lot. That is still a lot.
That is a lot. Yeah.
That's 3 months compared to like the data back in the day was like maybe 100,000 a year. Now we're looking at like just amazing numbers. So when you're talking about these kids and adults and, and that the family units, 134,000 people came together as a family across the border. Are they really part of the same family? I don't know. We'll talk about that in a little while. But total apprehensions at the Southwest border from October, November, December, 496,148 people. That just,
that's just the ones getting apprehended.
That's just the ones getting apprehended. Think about it this way. 16 and 19,000 U.S. Border Patrol agents on the Southwest border and Northwest border working. Well, let's just go with 16,000 at the Southwest border. And we're working 7 days a week, 24/7, not including time off, not including leave, 3 to 4 shifts. How are you going to apprehend? How are you going to process that many bodies? Mm-hmm. You can't. So what you do is you pull from other components. You pull from Homeland Security investigations. You pull from everywhere else just to process and move bodies, bro. And what's happening is they have to put those bodies somewhere. Can't keep them at the southwest border, can't keep them detained forever. And a lot of times you can't send them back south. So they are putting them on buses, dropping them off in the United States in all different locations. They're issuing them a notice to appear, which is a piece of paper. They're releasing them on their own recognizance, which is another piece of paper.
Yep.
So when they get pulled over by the cops or they get stopped or they're going to get some sort of employment, they show them this paper and the cops are like, well, I'm not going to do anything with that. And 9 times out of 10, if the cops are in a blue state or a blue area and they don't have designated immigration authority or they don't have the opportunity to actually call ICE, they won't even care if they're here legally or illegally.
Is there any? Are there caveats here from a federal perspective, legally speaking? Is our government violating their own laws by doing this? By giving them these summons to appear and then dropping them off into society? Is there anything that's being violated by that, or are they stringing together the loopholes?
If you can't, you said they can't send them back across the border. And I don't know enough to say why they can't.
Yeah, they can VR voluntary return. A lot of males and females that are just single adults will go back south, but then they'll make the venture north to get here. Let's say they're going to put them in detention. They're going to put them in some sort of detention facility. A lot of times they could say, hey, you know what? Give me an expedited removal. Give me a voluntary return. I'm going to head back down south, and then I'm just going to come across the border somewhere else where I know it's easy to get across.
So, I mean,
what is... Just... Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, no, you go ahead.
I got to love live delays. It's amazing.
No, that's the thing, too, is if you, let's just say a half of these people are coming across and half get released into the wild, that's 250,000 people in 3 months. So then you're talking maybe the next year, it's going to keep going and going and going. These numbers are going to rise because there is no. Here's the deal with law: is 1990s under Bill Clinton, immigration laws went super hardcore. It was like, hey, you know what? We're going to send a SWAT team, or we're going to send Bortak in, take out Alien Gonzalez, send his ass back to Cuba. That same laws are still in the books. We don't enforce them because what happens is executive orders. Everybody understands executive orders. So they'll put priority lists out there for ICE saying, okay, priority 1 is criminal aliens, and now it's actually national security threats, something, et cetera, really hardcore aliens, blah, 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 all the way down to really unenforceable. So then ICE essentially has their hands tied. Same thing with CBP, same thing with everybody else that's involved with the immigration system. So they're essentially tying the hands of Border Patrol, ICE, and everybody else that wants to enforce these same laws that politicians put on the books.
Do you think this... Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, Mike. Go ahead.
I'm just curious your opinion on if you think this backing away from enforcing the laws that are on the books and doing what we're doing by essentially the government is, without a doubt, trafficking. They're moving humans into our country and through our country, sometimes unbeknownst to the states that they're dropping them off, or the municipalities that are all of a sudden like, you would think that they would want to give them a heads up. Oh, hey, by the way, we're bringing 400 people who just showed up here and just giving them to you without letting you know. But do you think it's an ideology that is just different? Because some people are going to say, hey, we're a country, we have sovereign borders, come here the right way, that's it. Then you have other people who just seem to be, maybe whether it's their sympathies lie saying like, hey, listen, imagine being in their position and just needing to get out of wherever they're at. They're doing everything that they possibly could. What wouldn't you do the same thing in their situation if you're scraping by? You talk in your book about a kid looking at your Beretta, for example, and asking how many rabbits you kill, or do you kill rabbits with that? Because he didn't see the gun as something that could hurt him. He saw it as something that could provide food. And like that perspective is people become sympathetic and say, I can understand why they would come, and if America is really going to be American, we should welcome them, right? Like, bring us your tired, just come on in. And Is it that coming from our current political climate, or do you think there's a more intentional, nefarious type motivation going on? Like, hey, look, now they can vote without ID and they can keep us in power. Where do you fall on that spectrum of thought?
I fall on, yes, I believe in economic migration. I do. I believe in people fearing for their life should be able to claim amnesty or refugee status. Absolutely. But I do believe that we should have quotas on how many people can come across the border. We've had laws on the books for saying, okay, we could have such and such can come over here for this visa, for that visa, for this. Obviously, not everybody's going to work in certain austere areas, and not everybody's going to work everywhere. But the thing is, what's going on is, I believe, is that everybody figures, and I'm talking migration patterns, get to the United States, get a foothold here before they pass some sort of immigration reform.
Mm-hmm.
So the PR campaign, the everything going on down south of the borders, get your ass to the U.S. They're not going to deport you. You're not going to be detained. If you get here, they're going to give you some paperwork. You could move freely. Now is the time to do it. Do it here in the next 36 months in case there's something that happens politically, as in like we change presidents. Get here now. And that's the optics down south, is get here now, get a foothold. So if they do pass some sort of immigration reform, that they will have a foothold here. Is there nefarious things? I'm sure. There's always a nefarious avenue to everything. And there's always politics involved with everything. Now, we were talking about these executive orders and everything. So the president will say, hey, you know what? He'll have a meeting with his staff and say, don't screw with the migrants. ICE leadership, CBP leadership will then put out a memo based on the guidance from President Biden. We're not going to do this. We're going to enforce this. We don't have the resources to do this. And that's what happens.
Man, how much you've thrown some big numbers out there, like the 38,000 or so unaccompanied minors just in the last 3 months. Do you have any gauge in terms of like the percentage of those that are being used and manipulated by violent gangs, by drug cartels, by that on the other side, someone else is knowing that they're coming across and they're waiting for them, and that the plan for them is to be trafficked into sex trades or other type underground things? Do you have any concept of percentages of what kids are legitimately, like, their parents are hugging them goodbye, hoping that they get a better life and leaving them behind, versus they're being used and manipulated?
You're not going to get the percentages that are going to make anybody say, oh, well, I don't know if that's really happening.
Mm-hmm.
You can't really tell the percentages because you just don't know. Now, when I blew the whistle, and I'll give the quick snapshot of my blowing the whistle,
Yeah, please do.
because it kind of gives you an idea of these kids at the border. So I get assigned to this human smuggling cell, 2015. This is when there was a humongous, I can't say that now because it's crazier now. There was about 60 to 80,000 kids, unaccompanied alien children, UACs, coming across the border at any year. And what happens is a kid comes up across the border anywhere from not zero, but months
Mm-hmm.
old to 17. They get encountered by the Border Patrol. They get encountered by the Office of Field Operations, CBP. They get processed. They get handed over to ICE. ICE will then hand them over to another agency, Health and Human Services, Office of Refugee Relocation or Resettlement. And then they hand them off to a contracted sponsor facility who will then hand them over to a sponsor. Now, our job at this human smuggling cell was to stop at the strategic level, stop these smuggling organizations from bringing kids up to the border and through the border.
Mm-hmm.
And while I was there, one of my workmates sends me this spreadsheet, and it had 29,000 sponsors on it. And I didn't know at the time that these sponsors weren't being vetted. They weren't having their fingerprints taken. They weren't having their criminal histories checked. They were just releasing these kids to anybody, really. Most of these adults that came in and said, hey, that's my kid. That's my relative. I'm here to sponsor them. Boom, here's the kid. I mean, so ICE gets together, their intelligence function, looks at a list of 29,000 sponsors, use their data, their biographical data, as in their date of birth, address, names, and runs them. And out of that, I think it was 3,400, 3,700, had criminal backgrounds,
Wow.
reentry after deportation, up to violent crimes, up to sex offenders. And me being I thought I was semi-smart at the time, said, hey, you know what? We shouldn't have all these kids out there. We should probably run all the backgrounds of all these other sponsors. Maybe we should go and bring all these kids and remand them back into a safe custody and then figure out what to do with them after that. And I do caveat all this because I used to get a lot of people say, well, a lot of them are MS-13. I had access to what they call the UAC database, Unaccompanied Alien Children database, that HHS had. And they had pictures of the kids on there. So as I'm scrolling through and doing a sampling of some of the kids on this list, there's pictures of babies. There's pictures of kids that are 3 years old, pictures of kids that are 8 years old. Yes, there are kids that came across the border, are adults posing as children who are part of MS-13. Yes, there are gang members. Yes, there are. But so many of these are tender age kids. And when I blew the whistle, and essentially what I said was, bring these kids back in our custody. And they said no. I reiterated. They said no again. And then what I did was I went home and I said, fuck, man. At the time, my kids were 6 and 8. And I said, what do I do now? I'm like, at this time, I think I had 16 years in the Fed, not including my military. And my wife's a Fed. And I'm like, well, this kind of sucks. And I said, if that was my kid, I wouldn't want some fucking sex offender, pedophile, I mean, and like you said before, not everybody is in. Some people do want to send their kids across the border. Mm-hmm. But what if those people that did want to send their kids across the border, their kids end up in some pedophile's basement?
Yeah.
So I said, you know what? I figured, how do I legally blow the whistle? I knew about Snowden. I knew about all these Chelsea Mannings and everybody else. I said, fuck that. I'm not going to the media. I went to the Office of Special Counsel and I blew the whistle. I said, here's what's going on. We need to change it. And it was a complete shit show after that. I mean, a complete shit show for the next 4 months.
What made it a shit show? Like who pushed back against you? Who wished you would have never said anything, and who embraced it and went with it?
Anybody in administration really embraced me to go to hell and probably die, because the next year was the next.
Did you go through your chain of command first, or did you just go straight up the ladder?
No, I went my chain of command. I went right to the director of this cell. And then when I blew the whistle, I did it anonymously. And I really, really want to talk about how to legally blow the whistle later on, because there's a lot of shit going on. People should probably raise their hand and say, wow, that's fucked up. And excuse my French, but I get a little heated when I talk about this.
Well, so you're on Failure to Stop. You can say whatever you want.
Yeah, I mean,
YouTube's already banned a couple of our videos already. What's
literally don't care. You can say whatever you want. It's a sanctuary of freedom here.
I mean, think about the conversation we've had so far about strangle baiting and completing while you're getting tased. I mean, I don't know where else we can go.
I'm going to check the Urban Dictionary out today for strangle baiting too, because that's got to be in there. So the data, it's all in there. The data came from Health and Human Services. The exact spreadsheet went to us, came back to me. So I go to Health and Human Services through my OSC lawyer and say, here's your data.
Wait. Through your what lawyer?
OSC, not my personal lawyer. So Office of Special Counsel is a government organization, and they have lawyers involved, and they're the ones that are like supposed to be the watchdog. They're the ones that are supposed to call people on the carpet, work with Congress, and say, this is what's going on. Okay. So they get a hold of Health and Human Services, and Health and Human Services first off says, well, this isn't the same data. One of the Excel spreadsheet files or one of the rows is offline. I'm like, bro, it's the same data. So they keep going back and forth trying to refute the same data. And I said, look, I had to email this myself. It may not be lined correctly, but please just vet these sponsors. Well, they did a sampling. And out of 29,000 sponsors, how many people do you think Health and Human Services took a look at? 25. They looked at 25 people on that list and said, well, we took a look at a sampling and they didn't turn out to be criminals.
Out of, you said around close to 30,000?
Yeah, close to 30,000. So I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Like, well, we can't really understand what's going on with this spreadsheet and this data. And I'm like, you got to be kidding. So if you go online.
You made the spreadsheet.
Just so I'm trying to follow along here, like whose responsibility is it to vet the 23,000 people? Like is that HHS? Is that Border Patrol? Like who gets to determine this list of 23,000 people?
Okay, so every sponsor that comes in to pick up a child goes to a contracted facility, and that facility is supposed to check their criminal history. They're supposed to have their fingerprints run. They're supposed to do
And who
a
runs
data
that?
call with, and
Who
that's
runs
Health and
that?
Human Services.
Okay.
And that was always one of my big problems is
But
HHS.
these aren't HHS facilities per se. They're contracted. They're approved
Yes.
facilities.
Yes.
So
that's
private
always-
contractors are involved, basically.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And that's, I mean, if you want to get into contract fraud and all the other shit, I never even looked at that avenue just because it's like, holy Christ.
Now these
I just
contractors,
want
these are
that.
the same contractors that work for Southwest Key and all that,
I don't know.
or what is it that we were talking about on the last child trafficking? Was it
Yeah.
Yeah, I
it was,
wouldn't doubt it.
it was Southwest Key, right?
Yeah. Nuts.
Well, the thing is, Health and Human Services isn't a law enforcement agency.
Right.
They do have an OIG, but they're not the ones running their criminal history checks. According to policy, you're supposed to run fingerprints. You're supposed to check people's, where their bona fide address, where these kids are going to, etc. That wasn't happening at all. So I eventually, I'm going back and forth with Health and Human Services. All this stuff's online too, which is good. If you go to the OSC website and you type in 2015, 16, you could find all my correspondence back and forth with OSC saying basically, what the fuck are you doing? So eventually I go to my OSC lawyer and said, look, I'll debrief with these guys. I want to remain anonymous, but I want a list of everybody who's on that phone call with me, and I want meeting notes. They're like, okay. Because I'm like, I got impatient. I blew the whistle in August. The spreadsheet was dated July. It's now September. And I'm like, these kids are still out there in the wind. And the kids are still getting released out into the wind. And I get debriefed. I'm sitting in my car. I'm talking to these Health and Human Services people. And they're picking at me like, how do you know this information is real? Who are you? Not basically, they didn't come out and say, who are you? But how do we
They
know
didn't pick you up in a
know?
van and put a hood over your head?
No, that would have been cool. But
I mean, minus the fact that would happen. Yeah, that'd be great.
yeah. But no, I let it slip that I was a certified fraud examiner, which was stupid because there's not many of us out there. And I said I work closely with this human smuggling cell. So it's easy to put two and two together. The next business day I went to work, my supervisor from headquarters calls up and says, your details terminated. You have to report back to headquarters. I'm like, huh, that's interesting.
I wonder if there's any correlation.
Yeah. So then shit started getting weird. I go back to headquarters. My cubicle's all fucked up. They put me right in the bay so they can keep an eye on me.
Man, this is like some, I feel like, what's that movie with Mel Gibson where he's afraid of the government?
Conspiracy.
Oh, yeah, conspiracy theory.
I feel like
Wait,
you show
when
up
they-
and your cubicle's all jacked up. You're
Yeah.
like, oh, man.
They
Whoever
put you in the. You said they put you in the bay. What is the bay?
So, it's basically essentially just like a cubicle farm.
Okay.
And they put me like right out so my supervisor can keep a good view on what I'm doing and everything.
So that you
And
can,
so what
you
did
can
your
enter data into the
supervisor-
spreadsheet.
Now I get it that you did it anonymously. So your supervisor didn't know that you were the whistleblower.
Technically, they didn't know, but you kind of
Technically,
can.
they
Kind
didn't know,
of
but they could tell that you knew. So you never. So how did you use your chain of command if you went anonymously?
Oh no, my initial chain of command, I said, hey, you know what? We need to change this shit. But then when I blew the whistle, I mean, it's really easy to put two and two together eventually.
Right. But like you
But,
didn't have anybody that you could like team up with to like
No.
give you some like you don't you think that you were the only one that gave a shit about these kids. Like you couldn't form an alliance with anybody else. I'm just trying to get a grasp on how corrupt all this is. Like you
Oh,
trusted
no,
nobody to help you move this thing up.
Oh
'Cause
no,
I
I
like
trust
any of my
Yeah.
supervisors, if I was like, look, kids are going to a home where they're not being vetted, my supervisor would be like, what? No, that can't happen. You know what I mean? Like I'm missing the disconnect on like, why is leadership so bad there that nobody was willing to back you up on this?
Well, that's the thing. Is like my coworkers probably would, but who's going to throw their career away? I mean,
any good law enforcement officer, that stands
You'd
on
think-
any
yeah,
type
you'd
of
think.
principle.
you
Yeah,
would think,
this is
you
this
know?
is an issue of principle and integrity, right? Like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, you would think that's if my shit show my career since then. But anyway, that's another story. But you got to remember, a lot of these people in the chain of command, they're at the senior levels. They all want to be either senior executive services. They want to get those lucrative post-career jobs. And I would venture to say that, and I'm not going to throw any time bombs out there, but look at who the chain of command of ICE was back then, and look what happens to them after that, where they went on. I'm not going to name names, but if you could just look at the same people who were in charge under Obama were the same people in charge under Trump. Listen, these same people knew exactly what was going on the border. They know exactly what's going on with these kids. And to caveat back onto the cubicle, my data files are all corrupted on my Outlook. Every time I want to, I'm looking up the road. I see G rides on my road, government vehicles. I'm like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. At the time, same time, my wife's a Fed, I'm a Fed, and we're both like, really? Wow. I'm like, I kind of wanted to stop and say, what do you want to know? I mean, I'm an open book. So when I got terminated, I went right to Senator Charles Grassley, because he's out of Iowa, huge proponent for whistleblowers. And they were like, fuck this. And they started calling everybody on the carpet. And they didn't want to know just about the kids coming across the border. At the same time, all this stuff going on, I was putting together an intel.
So you didn't just get moved to the cubicle. You got straight up fired.
No, I got moved to the cubicle. I didn't get fired. I eventually got another job to get me out of there before they could fire me. Because believe me, if I stayed around, they would have fired me. And thank God for my new agency. But I think once my new agency figured out that I'm a whistleblower, they kind of.
So, I mean, do you think, like, if you would have really been an open book and have said something like who you were, not anonymously, that they would have had a discussion with you? Or would they have, like, then they wouldn't have had all the government vehicles running down your thing? Because I feel like it just blows my mind that there was nobody there that was willing to
they were trying to see if I was going to go to the media, because this is before an election.
Right. I got you.
And I think what they were doing is they were checking up on me, make sure there wasn't going to be any of these emails to CNN or Fox or to anybody else.
And what do you think would have happened if you would have dropped that email?
Oh, I would have been fired. Just absolutely fired.
Would that have actually been a violation of policy by taking information like that internally and giving it to the media?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Gotcha.
And I wouldn't expect anything else. I mean, I don't believe in just dropping leaks to the media and stuff like that. I do believe in going to Congress, calling people on the carpet. Grassley changed it. He actually got them to pass an amendment where they have to do the fingerprints. They have to do that. But Grassley also, I was saying, at the same time all this shit was going on when I was at the human smuggling cell. Oh, by the way, I wrote the business plan and charter for the cell, so I kind of knew how it works. I was writing up an intelligence brief, because at the same time, the Southwest border, we were getting a lot of people from special interest alien countries like Syria and everybody else coming across. And I said, hey, look, who's vetting these people? Who's doing it, interviewing and interrogating them to determine what their reasons of coming across the border are? Grassley wanted to know about that. I gave him a whole snapshot of everything that was going on at the border as far as that. And they called the Bureau, they called Homeland Security, and everybody else on the carpet and said, what are we doing about these Syrians? This is a laundry list of questions. And I got to put that up on the web, because it's all open source. It's out there. The letters from Grassley to Jay Johnson and all the other guys. It did affect change. But what's great is last March, there's so many kids coming across the border that they stopped fingerprinting them. They stopped fingerprinting the sponsors again. Right. So as far as I know right now, they're not vetting these sponsors again. And oh, by the way, which would be in
violation of the changes that were made.
Yep.
As a result of the information you brought to light.
Yeah, and then we were talking about another thing that's going on at the border is we were talking about these family units. And we were concerned, I was concerned, I'm still concerned about these people bringing kids across that aren't really family members, that their DNA won't match. So under Trump, they actually started doing rapid DNA. They actually started checking if these kids are familiar relations.
How fast is rapid DNA? I have no idea.
It's like within hours, I think.
Really?
I'm not sure. I do have a master's of forensic science, but you could probably flush that down the road. So I don't know, man. But what happens was, so if you're coming across a border as a family unit, you can't detain a kid for more than 20 days under the Flores agreement. So these adults would bring a kid with them, and the smuggling organizations would recycle these kids. So they would give 2 valid passports to a lady and a child They would come across the border. They'd put this kid on a plane, ship him back down south with the passports, and they would reuse all this stuff over and over again. I wrote some articles about that. This is bona fide stuff. It's all open source. And I used to write a bunch of stuff for Town Hall, and I documented all that stuff going on. They actually started really like pushing, saying, hey, you know what? We really need to check on these adults because they're essentially trafficking kids.
Mhm.
They're smuggling kids back and forth, and using them for nefarious needs. A lot of these kids, it's not just sex trafficking, it's labor trafficking. They're ending up on farms, or ending up in factories, or ending up here and there. It's just a complete shit show.
And you can't track them.
You can't.
At least locally, right? Somebody from, like in Florida, like I said, right? Like these busloads of kids gets dropped off. If the governor's office and relevant law enforcement agencies aren't even aware that this plane showed up at 4 a.m. and by 11 a.m. 4 busloads of teenage males are roaming around Florida or being used right now, they're going to that farm, wherever they're going to be, basically slave labor in the United States. It's nuts to think that this is a reality, but however they're being used, the law enforcement agencies on a state and local level can't even enforce anything. It's like they're literally they're ignorant of it because they're not being connected.
One of your biggest fears is like pulling over to that car where they don't speak any English, and then they just hand you like a passport and a green card, and then their face doesn't really match, and then you're just kind of like, well, what do I do now? And you call the supervisor, and your supervisor's a little bit kind of aggravated because you've called him now, and now you're all doing this critical thinking thing, and everybody hates you, and ultimately there's nothing going to be done. Because there's nothing you can do. You're never going to figure out who that guy really is. You're going to maybe get his fingerprints, but you don't really have anything on him except for, whatever the speeding violation was or whatever the non-arrestable offense was. So you really, at the end of the day, nothing happens.
Well, there's two real big points that I want to bring up right there. And let me, I got to tell you about this in a second, but let's talk about these kids again real quick. I'm all for economic migration. I'm all for this, but with these kids and stuff, let's say you give them over an adult. And when I first started working with ICE over on the deportation side, I used to work with this thing called Alternatives to Detention, where they put ankle bracelets on people. So if you really want to know where these kids are going and some adult's going to come in and sponsor them, throw an ankle bracelet on the adult. If you really want to make sure, if they're not coming in as a familial relation and there's someone that quote unquote, I know the family, throw an ankle bracelet on them. The other thing too is with all of like you said, you pull over that car. Let's say that all those people work at a factory or they work at some processing plant, and the manager at that processing plant is working them 14, 16 hours a day. They go live in a shack on the outside of it. They're getting abused. Half their paycheck goes to the manager. They maybe get a $2 or $3 to send home. You don't fall under EEO and you don't fall under OSHA. You don't fall under any protections for workers. So people are like, oh yeah, let them come across. I don't care if they're legal, illegal, or not. If they don't have permission to work here, they can get abused by employers. And oh, by the way, we all know that there's evil fucks out there. Mm-hmm. And they're using these people and using them. And then they're done. They ship them back south. So it's not just, hey, let them come over here. No, Americans aren't going to do those jobs. It's like, yeah, well, there's these companies that are going to be, using the hell out of them. About 3-4 years ago under Trump, HSI, Homeland Security Investigations, hammered the shit out of a bunch of companies down south in South United States. And they brought all the aliens out, they interviewed them, and they released them, except for the criminals, like the real bona fide criminals, to build cases on these companies that are using the migrants. So it's not like Trump was like, just deport everybody. He was like, look, they let all those people go and they were going after the companies. Nobody's going after companies now. Do you think there's any checks and balances right now with these companies? No, I mean, they've gotten rid of ICE out of half the jails. Yeah, so 287 G's out the door. If they're doing that, then they're probably doing, I'm sure it's got to be part of the big defund movement is defunding ICE would probably be the first thing. I know when they elected the new sheriff here in Wake County, the first thing he did was get rid of ICE. Let's talk about vetting real quick. If you've never been encountered by law enforcement or the IC, the intelligence community, anywhere in the world, and you come to the southwest border and they run your fingerprints, they interview you, And they do, when I'm talking the interview, it's like this: where were you born? What'd you do? How much you pay to get here? Oh my gosh, we got to get him out of here. We got 500,000 people waiting. If you've never been encountered by any of these people, and oh, by the way, even if you have in that other country, that third country doesn't share their information with us, we're not going to know.
Right. So there's the point, though. You said that, they've got 500,000 people. You got to get through it. What is the action to be taken at the border? Because, I mean, obviously you can't sit there and question everybody like a detective.
Yeah.
If you've got 500,000 people waiting outside, where are they going to sleep? Where are they going to eat?
Mhm.
What are the actions that you would see, because, even the fingerprinting, I don't agree with it. I think you're 100% right. I think everybody should be fingerprinted. I think they should all be vetted. I would love to see an ankle bracelet on everybody, but we all know that the ankle bracelets, I mean, we can't even keep track of the criminals that are in ankle bracelets right now, much less everybody else. What do you see happening that could manage all of those people being fingerprinted or being vetted properly? What would it take? I mean, a border wall? Would it take giving more money to Border Patrol agents? I mean, where do you start?
Giving more money to Border Patrol? Sure, why not? I'm all for it. Let's do it. No, but the reality is you're still sending Border Patrol agents to austere environments with a family. I did a piece a while back where I said we need to deploy National Guard assets to the southwest border. Military police, not the police the border, but military police, because one of their main functions is detention operations. They can do fingerprints. They could move bodies from point A to point B, and also send medical service battalions down there to, medical screen everybody coming across the border. Because we know right now that everybody's just coming and going. There's no COVID. There's no nothing. It's just kind of like they're all really healthy people coming across the border.
Yeah, we were locked down. We were locked down for our health while the border was wide open for their health. I don't know what's
holy shit, man.
I don't know how that makes sense,
but also with those military police, you can, hey, why not bring in some military intelligence assets who are interrogators, who can speak other languages, who can vet these people? It's not. Hopefully that data is up on here, because a lot of times it's not just they give you the country data too. Because who else is coming across the border? It's not just all Mexican and South Americans. There's a ton of other than Mexicans coming across. We need to vet those people. At one time under Trump, I said we need to do a port court. Have courts at the border where you have immigration judges who can go through these cases. At the time, 85 to 90% of people claiming asylum were granted an asylum interview and granted an appearance. So it's there's so much, man. When you bring up what to do with the southwest border, it's like, yeah. And we also have 17 consulates down there. So have these people if they want to claim refugee status, go into one of our consulates down there. Do everything you can south of the border. But the big thing is this border is so overwhelmed, and a border wall does work. Hey, listen, infantry, you want to funnel your target audience, i.e. the enemy, or in this case, migration patterns, into certain areas where you could. So let's say the border, I always equate the border to Route 95 from Maine to Miami. That's how big the border is. So you can't put a wall up on there. It's not feasible for a wall everywhere. But what you do is you put the wall in certain areas to funnel the traffic in to where you could put your technologically advanced monitoring systems, infrared, motion sensors, etc. And that's where you could put your extra border patrol people, extra people monitoring the border. But yeah, I think a wall would work. And I think it would, but if you're going to apprehend the people, what are you going to do with them? You're still going to release them on these buses or these planes.
Or you could turn them back around.
That's a great
Or
point.
what do you think? This is an extreme example. I've thought about this. I don't know if this is just un-American of me, or what do you think? Like, what happens if you set up, let's say, these? I would envision them to be like guard towers or lighthouses or whatever else, and the first person that steps over the line gets shot. And then you start piling up bodies at the border. Do you think that they would be like, you know what? Maybe I won't try to get in here. Is that a viable option?
Never. I'll never ever agree to that one.
Would a more viable option be is potentially working with the Mexican government and
Put alligators in the river.
You know, you talk about funneling. You talk about funneling people into certain like a corridor. You know, what if you worked with Mexico to fund, you know, not, you know, like legit towns, you know. So for instance, if you ever been to NTC, right, or Fort Irwin, you know how they build like fake fucking towns out in the desert. What if we built fake fucking towns? I mean,
Tell them they're in America.
No,
put it on the Mexican side. Yes, we just build cities in Mexico.
No, but the Bee Hut style town or village, and they come as they're moving to the border. You get checked into whatever Bee Hut you're at, and that's where you're going to stay until you can get processed appropriately to the border. And that way, you've got Mexico and the United States. Because I mean, look, we can build a Bee Hut city in Fort Irwin, you know,
in like
overnight.
6 days.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we're talking porta potties, bathing stations, semi truck showers. I mean, I've seen it done 1,000 times.
China built a hospital for 100,000 people in 72 hours. So I mean, when there was
like that,
you
know, but I mean,
no,
like then it would funnel you because you're like, okay, and then where you don't have that, you know, that the people that aren't going in the right way, which might be a slight inconvenience, right? But it's still not. It's still not you sitting in the desert dying of dehydration and drowning in the river. But you know, the ones that are going to bypass that are the ones that are more likely up to nefarious activities. And then you can put your border patrol there.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought up the exposure. But yeah, we need to up the game with Mexico and say, hey, look, either you shut the border now for 72 hours, all commercial trade going back and forth, and you see what happens. Look what happens when Kiki Camarena got killed. In the 80s, they shut the border down for 2 days, and the cartel was like, boom.
What's that? I don't know. I'm not familiar with that.
So in the 1980s, there was a DEA agent working down south Mexico. Cartel kidnaps him, tortures him, kills him, and drops his body.
At the border?
I don't think we knew about his body yet, but I think we were looking for him. And what the U.S. government in the 80s said, shut the border down. And within 2 or 3 days, the body like appeared. I believe that's what happened. But back then, the cartel runs everything. So if you shut that border down, there's going to be no drugs coming across. I mean, other than tunnels and everywhere else.
But it's going to slow it down big time. Yeah.
Yeah. So you got to do that.
It's like anything else. You hit them where it hurts.
Yeah.
The money.
The money.
Yeah. Shut the border down for 72 hours and watch these numbers go from 400,000, 496,000 to like, I don't know, 460,000. But no, it's really going to drop. And think about, like, I like what Tansey said about where these people are going outside the border. If you go out in the middle of nowhere, it's not easy to track people and find people. It's people can hide anywhere. It's a big border. So they come across, how many people have died of exposure underneath the bush? There's thousands and thousands of people on that southwest border just dead out in the middle of nowhere.
Really?
How many kids are out in the middle of nowhere in the border?
Gosh,
we just saw those videos, 6 months ago, where they were dropping the kids over the fence?
Yeah.
And that's what pisses me off the most about all this shit is.
Now, you mentioned during the Trump, you mentioned Trump like several times, and you've reverted back to the Trump era. And I'm guessing that's when you were, you know, actively on the border. Or was there a difference at the border in the Trump administration? Tell me about the difference between the Trump administration border and today's border.
Well, the Trump was doing the same thing. Stay in Mexico and we'll process your paperwork. They were doing the port courts. They were taking these migrant kids. They were doing rapid DNA. They were doing fingerprints. They were vetting the sponsors. And people knew if they were using kids and they got caught, they'd be hooked for trafficking or they'd be hooked for smuggling. Let's think about something outside of, you know, the Trump era and just everything that's been going on. Immigration judges. I'm looking at the current, this isn't just a couple years old. Guess how many immigration judges there are to handle 1 million plus backlog cases, plus 300,000 or 400,000 new cases every few months.
I actually have no idea.
535 judges. And oh, by the way, these 535 judges work for the Department of Justice, so they have a whole different chain of command than than the Homeland Security and Health and Human Services.
Wait. The judges work for an executive? branch? Like they're employed by a piece of the executive branch?
Mm-hmm. They're
So
employed by
the DOJ falls under the executive branch, does it not?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
That's fascinating. I didn't know that. Is that true of all federal judges?
I don't know. I believe it is.
Huh.
Oh,
Wow.
hold on. How many immigration judges are there? Oh, there's 465. Sorry.
Oh, yeah. It's worse. It's worse than we thought. Oh my gosh.
Damn it.
Oh my gosh. I 400. Let's just say, hey,
Was there more during the Trump era? Was there more immigration judges then?
They're slowly building up. Let's say there's 490, 500. They got to process all, even if they're doing virtual, they still got to process all these cases. So let's go back. Let's backtrack about 40 minutes here. When you're handed a notice to appear, this is kind of like your legal paperwork to stay here until you go see an immigration judge. They mail a copy to the address you give them.
Yeah.
And if you don't get
I'm not
it,
sure yet. The
hey,
plane hasn't told me where I'm going yet. I don't know what the address is.
Hold on. I don't no say, but it's like, so and then they go there and say, oh, well, I have to hire a lawyer. Okay, we'll give you an extension, or we'll what's the name? We'll get you another court date. You know how many they're putting these court dates out for a year to 3 years? I mean, these people are going to be here forever.
When I was
we can't even get people to show up.
No.
Early on in my career, so we're talking 2009, 2010. Honestly, even through probably 2013, that's about when things started to shift. 2012, 2013, which would have been Obama's second term, right? I'm getting my dates right, correct? So we would stop people, we would find houses, or neighbors would call and be like, "Hey, I think there's some illegal immigrants or activities happening here," and we would find houses with, say, like 12 to 17 people living in them. They're working at different places. Some of them are engaged in illegal activities. Whatever's going on, there'd be like 17 dudes living in a house. We're not talking families. No kids involved. Just all dudes piled into like a 2-bedroom house, like somewhere in Metro Detroit. And so we'd find them. All we would have to do literally is call the substation. So I'm right by the border of Canada. So there's a substation, very near where I worked, and they would come and deal with it. If we stopped pedestrians on the street, right, leaving these places, because that was our pretext, right? Okay, hey, now we see them out walking, they're going to the store. You do a pretext stop, and we're having these conversations. It was determined, okay, they have no ID, they can't speak the language, whatever else. Let's get Border Patrol involved. Early on in my career, 2012, 2013, at that point, they would show up. They would dispatch a car to our stop. They would pick them up in the car, take them gone, and they would deport them. And that would happen relatively quickly. Just in the span of like a year and a half or 2 years from that point, which was commonplace, it would. I had a traffic stop one night where a Border Patrol guy actually was just out in his car, lights up, pulls up to back me up, and we're having this conversation. I'm like, hey, I was going to call you on these guys actually, or whatever the case would be. And they was like, oh, you might as well not, because all we're going to do is give them a notice to appear. And they got 5 years. So they're like, yeah, their court date's 5 years from now. We're never going to see that person again. So just do whatever you want with them, and you might as well stop calling us because they're not going to dispatch us anymore. I'm like, wow, that changed pretty quickly. Oh, we lost
his audio. Is it back?
He's got to unmute himself.
I got to unmute. This is professional. That's why you guys are 0.5% and I'm only 1%.
I have never muted my microphone ever. Is that something we do? Is that something?
No, I should have cough buttons. We should have professional cough buttons.
That's my cough button right there.
Oh, you muted it to cough. Okay, I got you. I thought you were saying that you muted every time somebody's talking. I was like, damn, that is invested.
He just muted it again.
Well, he sneezed again. Now he's talking again.
Now you got to unmute.
He's got to unmute himself again.
Yeah, just sneeze.
The Protectors podcast now only in the top 5% of
I
podcasts.
know.
Just move down.
Hey, I was gonna say, you know, back in the day, I was a fugitive operations supervisor. We would get calls by the staties and stuff like that, and I'd send someone out there, and I'd be like, okay, we're gonna pick them up, we're gonna do this, process them, and see where they are, determine their alienage. But yeah, good luck doing that now. And the problem is they have this awesome program out there, and you guys were talking about it before about the jail model, the 287G program, where you designate people with immigration authority, and when people get apprehended for DUIs or whatever, you could run, the police themselves could run their fingerprints and have them issue them a detainer and blah, blah, blah. But yeah, good luck trying to get 287G in anywhere that's not like a really red state or a red location.
Yeah, that's nuts, man. What if is the solution possibly to turn the border into like a Hunger Games environment? Flaming arrows,
What is up?
moats.
What is up with you?
I'm just trying to think about solutions, practical solutions.
They're all very violent
We
solutions.
televise
I
it.
know.
Televise it. People can place bets on DraftKings.
We already have one strike on the YouTube, so
Yeah. No.
Whoa!
Yeah, he said, nope, I'm out.
He couldn't. Oh man, he was like, I cannot be present for any suggestion of violence. What he just said, I cannot stand by. Jason's like Hunger Games and border crossings. I'm out. I've reached my point of no return.
You guys kicked me out. I'm going to say it's that unpaid intern out there. Nah. Listen, no violence at the border.
You're not a producer. You're an intern now.
Now you're an intern. Okay, you're going to produce my show. This is professional. Now, what we need to do is, hey, you know what I tell people? You know what? Start local, right? Like when I get off the air tonight, I'm going to write 2 or 3 letters to my congressman about vetting, what's going on with the vetting. Because you know what? Why not? Put them on a carpet. You know, so many of these jackass congressmen and representatives and stuff, no, I say they're honorable representatives, are getting on social media and talking all this shit. But hey, do something. Drop a bill. Take this damn immigration law that's probably 5 million pages, cut it in pieces, and let's start fixing immigration law a piece at a time. These little kids coming, that's what will always bother me, and I will always speak up about it, is about these little kids coming across the border getting used. Listen, do you think a little 2 or 3 year old kid knows what the fuck's going on when someone's dropping them across the border?
Mm-hmm.
Or they end up in a house and some guy's selling them for sex?
Jeez. Yeah.
I mean, we should have a whole nother show on just domestic human trafficking. But let's say some of these kids.
We can talk.
No,
About
I mean, one of the weirder cases that I ever worked was a female that ended up at a hospital that refused to speak, and when I got there, I just kept trying to talk to her, and they had told me that she had a pill bottle lodged in her vagina, and that she had some pretty severe vaginal bleeding. So I asked, I said, is she trafficking drugs or something? Because she was Hispanic. And they said, no, usually they, if we had something like trafficking that was stuck in their vagina, it probably wouldn't be causing that much bleeding. Like something was forced in there rather, pretty early on, like in the last few hours, the way she's bleeding, or she would have been dead. And they had to surgically remove, and it was just this massive pill bottle. And what she had finally told us was that she came across the border and made her way to a truck stop where she was picked up by a trucker. She was forced to prostitute out of this truck at a truck stop for 5 days. She slept. She was tied and left inside of this truck. And then he took her to Alabama and gave her to another trucker. And this trucker took her all the way to Raleigh, stopping at different pit stops. And then she finally refused. He drug her to behind the Denny's, took a very large pill bottle, stuck it inside of her, according to her, and then he kicked it into her, stomped it into her, which, busted her open, I guess. And, she had, in her guess was that she had been in the United States for about 21 days. So now you have this, and she was pretty overweight as well. So you've got this Hispanic who probably had a hard time even getting to the border wherever she came from. And then she crosses the border to a truck stop. And then her first 21 days in Freedom Land is being trafficked by these crazy truckers going across the state. And, it's crazy that things like evil shit like that happens to these people who are just trying to find refuge.
It happens everywhere, man. And I'm not, the three of us could talk to each other and preach to the choir, but for the audience out there, this shit is happening in every city,
Mm-hmm.
every town. What is going on here? Can you guys hear me?
It's
Yeah, we can hear
it's the feds.
Okay, let me. I wouldn't doubt it, man. They're coming after me, but yeah, it's happening everywhere.
They've
man.
already hacked into our YouTube and
Oh, we
deleted
don't
parts of
wanna
our
do that.
podcast in the past. Whoa, that's going to get us banned. Fire on
Yeah,
it.
no. Let me try
Those
this again.
big boomsticks.
But
there.
somebody said like, why don't you put a bullet in these types of people? Man, there's no way. I don't even know if
I
that
would.
investigation got off of the ground. There's no way to know who this trucker was
No.
or where she came from. She had said that she was behind a restaurant. Our best guess was a Denny's, because of the area of town that she kind of described being in. She's never been to Raleigh before. The only restaurant over there was Denny's. I remember going and looking at the videotapes,
Mhm.
trying to see the parking lot, but the parking lot only shows the front door and the back dumpster. And there was nothing that happened at that dumpster that equates to her story. But there's no way to know that a truck was in there, and none of the employees remember a semi truck, which I feel like, if a semi truck pulled into a Denny's, somebody
Mhm.
would notice that. It doesn't seem like that would be. So we don't even know where this crime took place. We know it happened, right? Because we can visually see a pill bottle that has been kicked into a woman's vagina. But other than that, we have no idea. Like, there was no suspect information. The DNA that would have been pulled out of her, if she's been trafficked across the country, that's not going to help us.
Now,
it should help.
There is a really good organization. I don't know if they're good or not, but Truckers Against Trafficking.
Hmm.
A lot of the hotel industry is getting into it now, because trafficking isn't just some guy's dirty basement or the back of his truck. It's happening everywhere.
Hotels.
And I mean, the hotels are the worst at it. I
Yeah.
mean, and the funny thing is that we all know, and this is something that kind of has always bugged me, is that we all know that hotel in your beat, in your district, in your whatever you call your precinct area, whatever you call it in whatever state you're in, we call it a district and a beat. But that hotel that's trafficking human beings, like where all the prostitutes are. Why don't we just shut that whole fucking hotel down?
Yeah.
Like, hey, homie, we've busted like 3 people being trafficked out of here. You either fucking figure it out or we're just shutting you down. We shut clubs and bars down for having too many shootings. Why aren't we shutting these hotels down?
Yeah, you're never going to get rid of the roaches, but you got to, if you turn enough lights on, they're going to scatter out of the place. You have to shine enough truth and awareness and light on these things. And I like what you said, Jason. You just talked about like writing your senator. I mean, that's a piece of it, doing something. A lot of people are like, well, what are we going to do? What can we do? It's like, you need to take, what can you do? That's a great question. Ask yourself that question and then take a step, right? Like writing the senators is something to do. Changing your vote is something you can do. Working at it on a local level is a starting point. Like, what is in your control to do, and then start there. Do that as a piece of it. But I think it'd be great if the local action would be one thing, getting involved or beginning organizations that bring awareness to this, that bring a presence to these hotels and places where trafficking is possible, and disrupt it by just being a presence, because they don't want people to know that they're there. They don't want exposure to it. They want to keep it hidden because it's dark activity and it's evil, and it needs to be brought to light for people to see. So awareness on a local level, take action. Be like, well, a lot of people demand action or want somebody else to do it, but it's not up to somebody else. It's always up to us. It's always up to you to do something that you're upset about. If you have something in your gut that's like, this is bad, you have to take ownership of that. But at a higher level, it'd be nice if they were kind of meeting us there, where we talked about cooperation between the United States and Mexico. Work together on a solution rather than playing a blame game. Just work together on that solution. I love the idea of building like these makeshift towns along the border to create a safe zone in between where things could be dealt with a little bit better. Or for God's sake, please, if you're going to drop off hundreds of illegal aliens, let the state and local municipalities know it's coming. Even if you can legally do it under federal law, states need to start standing up to this and not tolerating it. Listen, these planes land somewhere. People know about it happening.
Right.
They
So
need
if
to
you
speak up.
if you can put 400 people on an airplane and drop them off somewhere, a precinct can handle 400 people getting fingerprints in a night. A
Yep.
jail can handle that. Hey, we're coming. bring a jail bus down here. We're going to transport them all to the corrections facility so that they can get fingerprinted and get properly documented. And then after that, put them out the door. What's the difference? And
Call them on the carpet. You know what? You don't want to write your congressman if you want to get involved. I really wish we had investigative journalists out there. Freedom of information, freedom of information, freedom of information. Start filing a whole shit ton. A lot of times ICE will let things go. Be like, oops. Oh, man. That wasn't me.
Nope.
That's out of all the episodes we've ever had, that we've had the most issues on this episode. I don't know if it's you, if it's us, if it's
it started with the mic
title.
It is.
Our numbers are glitched too. Like it keeps disappearing.
Jason, let me ask you. Jason, let me ask you this. Let me ask you this really quick. As far as child trafficking goes, I know that it's not at the forefront of a lot of agencies. But it is an issue. It's a growing issue. And I think it should be the number one issue in the minds of everybody, right? Let's always protect the children, but we can't use that hashtag for whatever reason. I never did any research on that.
The children are future.
It came into the whole
why is that a thing that we don't, or local agencies or Border Patrol, why is that not the most important thing? Why do you think that it gets pushed way down? And what I mean by that is, if we know a house is selling weed, there's a lot of cops that will go hard after that house for a hot minute. They'll do everything they can, trash pulls, whatever it takes, to get weed, to get marijuana. You know what I mean? There are cops out there that will write a search warrant for a trap house where people are doing, crackheads are just doing crackhead things. We'll go to a lot of effort and go to great lengths to bring drug stuff down. But there's not a lot of cops, especially street level cops, that want to go hard in the paint after trafficking, prostitution, illegal immigration trafficking, immigration law, slavery. Why is that not on the forefront of people's hearts and minds across law enforcement boards?
Well, I think Mike said it before. It's dirty. It's dark. It's not something that's easily identifiable. A lot of times it's the word of
I think it's just as identifiable as doing a trash pull for marijuana. Is it not?
Yeah, but when it comes down to, marijuana brings a lot of cash. Drugs equals money. U.S.
Prostitution, trafficking doesn't bring money.
Think about it this way: you have a key of Coke in your hand,
okay,
and you pull the guy over. He's got the Coke in his hand, essentially. It's easy to say, "Hey, we got this guy. He's got the Coke." Easy prosecution for the U.S.
Seems like lower hanging fruit.
Very low hanging fruit.
Yeah.
To build a case against a trafficker, phones, electronic communications, money transfers between the John and the prostitute and the prostitute / victim, and putting all these things together, and then it comes down to the word of this poor girl and we both know that yes, their prostitution's legal in some areas, but a lot of these girls are trafficked. Their word against them. We have a whole agency to go after people looking at my brace on one of those guns right now called the ATF. We have a whole agency called the DEA.
It's been brought to light now. They've got a 900 million records of guns now, tracking people who own guns. They have this database.
Yeah. Why don't we have 900 million fucking trafficking victims in a database?
Yes,
900
exactly.
million. So
why can't we all agree what is holding us back to say, hey, can we all hate each other on the left and the right and all these different opinions politically? Can we not just agree that people shouldn't fuck with kids? Can we agree on that and then just focus some energy on this for a while?
Listen,
curb this shit.
This is a whole big shitstorm here. Let me see if I could do this in like 2 or 3 minutes. That makes sense. We need a dedicated federal agency that fights human trafficking and human sex trafficking and labor trafficking. Boom. Put them all in the same fucking boat. But boom, we need a whole agency. And why do we need that? Because right now you have 50 different agencies and 50 different state and local agencies all in these task forces. But we all know when some other shit hits the fan, people are getting pulled off to go do something else. The good agents go on these task forces for a few years and they pull off, go become a sergeant or something else. HSI right now does child porn, does anything that has an international nexus, But what happens when something happens at the Southwest border, like 490,000 people, and they start sending all these agents to the border just to process and watch people? They get pulled off of task forces. They get pulled off of things to go work something else. So if you have a dedicated federal funded force that could also bring in state and local task force officers that is dedicated to fighting human trafficking, and that is their charter, that is what they're legally there, they're funded, and that's all they do, then you're going to see changes. But with everybody doing anything and everything and only jumping on it when it's quote unquote sexy and brings in money and looks very good politically, human trafficking is fucking horrible and it's evil. There's little kids 6, 7, 8 years old right now. And we're not saying kidnap kids. We're talking about, just familial relations to everything, to teenagers who are groomed into this business, who are getting fucked 5 times a day, 7 days a week. And it's fucking evil. And then we also throw in there, change the laws to go after these guys who are buying the sex. I don't care if you're fucking going to a massage parlor and you own an NFL team or whatever. If you're buying sex, you get convicted. You get seizures done on that. You take their money away from them. Because if you were knowingly buying sex from a teen or a child, then you fucking should go to jail and have everything you own taken away from you.
Mentioning the the NFL team owner, if you guys don't know, Robert Kraft was arrested in Florida a few years back when he was getting a little rub and tug at a massage parlor. And the only reason we know that he was there was because that parlor, along with all sorts of them across the state, they had a simultaneous search warrant going on to expose a child trafficking ring. It wasn't even out of Mexico. It was China based. And they're moving people through the country and moving them through these massage parlors in Florida, using them for sex to keep them in the country. And absolutely, Robert Kraft gets this little slap on the wrist for coming to get a rub and tug. But what he was doing was he's funding human trafficking. So 100%. I'm so glad you said that because I wasn't even thinking about that. People who pay for sex in this country, and there's these opinions that it's a harmless endeavor. People do it voluntarily, like these brothels and stuff in Nevada. And hey, it's the world's oldest profession. Yeah, it's also the world's oldest means of moving people illegally and harming human beings. So yeah, they should be held accountable. They shouldn't get a slap on the wrist. They should be castrated and drugged through the streets in public. And we should. I know my solutions are mostly violent. I'm not saying I should be in charge, but I support. Go ahead, Eric.
That 75 Hards just got you angry.
Yeah, he's fucking
Yeah.
The fucking unbelievable. So I live here in Virginia, and we just had Youngkin just got elected. And about 8 months ago, one of my friends was like, "Hey, look, Youngkin's going to be in our town. He's going to be talking about human trafficking." And I'm like, "What, Youngkin?" I'm like, "Fuck's this guy?" I didn't know who was running or not. But one of his first priorities was to set up a human trafficking. To shut down all these illicit massage parlors. I went there and I saw him talk, and I'm like, man, this guy has a whole real fucking plan. He brought in a former senator to talk about it. He brought in a trafficking victim who's went on to do some awesome things. And he brought in a mom. This mom lives here right outside of DC. Her daughter was 13, 14 years old, started getting texts from this really cute Hispanic kid in school. They go back and forth. He ends up bringing her in. Turns out he's got a bunch of tattoos, MS-13, and he brings her to a house. They gang rape this lady's daughter. They videotape it. They run a train on her, and then they say, look, we'll fucking put this videos everywhere. And they turned her out. They turned her into a trafficking victim. Wow. That's the reality. Youngkin goes, hey, look, we have all these illicit massage parlors. We're going to shut them down. So I ran into
if you've got something in your town that says massage parlor, discreet parking in rear.
Yeah.
That's what we call in the biz a clue.
Hey, before we let you go, I think it's really important because you cannot be the only law enforcement agent or officer who has ever stumbled into information that you kind of go, well, that doesn't seem right. This doesn't seem to be consistent with the values of this agency or the reason we swear this oath to the Constitution. What how would you encourage them in the right ways? I can't remember how you phrased it, but the kind of like the right way, the wise way, the legal way to go about whistleblowing. So if somebody, whether they're local, state, federal, whatever agency they're at, and they're stumbling into information that they're like, listen, this is not good. I need to do something about this. How would you advise that person to go about that process?
First of all, don't use your government computer. Don't use your government cell phone to look up, how do I blow the whistle? Don't email people and remain anonymous. First thing I did was I went to osc.gov, and you could look up on there that tells you what type of information they will take. There are other agencies. Every agency typically has a hotline to report information anonymously. I would even go as far as maybe getting a VPN now to kind of go behind a firewall to report information if you truly want to remain anonymous. I would contact senators. You don't have to go directly to OSC. Contact your congressman, your senator, your local state representative. Check with the laws of the local and state. Make sure you do not share classified information. Make sure you say, hey, look, I have classified information. Is there a way I could get it to you that's legal? And let them make the call and let them get the information involved. That's what I'm talking about, OSC and with the government. But do your research and remain anonymous. I would love to say that my career has flourished since I blew the whistle, but you ever hear that nobody puts baby in a corner? Well, they put baby in a corner. So I will never go far in the government. But the thing is, if you do take the chance and you do blow the whistle, I have never met one whistleblower who didn't say, I wouldn't do that again. Everybody I know would do it again. There's a lot of
what's the one guy that's in prison in England right now?
Oh, he probably
they're trying to expedite. Who's that?
Yeah, what the fuck? That's what's his name?
I forgot his name.
Oh, shit.
He's been over there for a hot minute.
Yeah, but
Not Snowden. He's living in Russia, isn't he? Where's Snowden these days?
I think he's in Russia. But what's that dude? It's gonna bother me. He's like the one who took Snowden's information and.
Yeah, it was the one. It was the one where they were like, it was one that Obama put in prison, if I'm not mistaken.
Where's the unpaid producer? He should know. Come on.
Who knows what he's doing right now?
No, but seriously, and if you do have any questions about it and stuff like that, that's your job.
What?
I love it. Anyway,
Baldwin's bathhouse. He's a human
stranglebait. There it is.
What is
we don't kink shame on this show.
Yikes.
So anyway, when you're looking up stranglebait and you want to blow the whistle, look up
Julian Assange.
Julian Assange. Thank you.
Thank you. God bless. Sorry, it's been a long show. We're an hour and 43 minutes into it. Emotions are high. Our brains are fried. I'm
ready to do some 75 hard now and then go beat the fuck out of some traffickers. No,
that's what I'm talking about.
I don't know any traffickers. Yeah.
Right?
I don't know any. Yeah, I would. Like, I know. Yeah, I mean, that's just my.
That sounds so
opinion.
bad. Like, I'm ready to go bang out some 75 hard. And kick some ass.
Yeah, look that up before you
kick some
twist
ass.
my words around.
Yeah. Hey,
but I'm all for violent solutions to human traffickers.
If you want to know more about human trafficking, though, is one of the people that really help out the show is an organization called Deliver Fund.
Okay.
So head out to deliverfund.org. Nick McKinley's on there, ex-Navy SEALs, CIA, paramilitary ops, all sorts of different people from the IT community. They're not vigilantes, which is great. They provide direct intelligence support to law enforcement. So if your agency is out there and you do need some help with human trafficking, i.e. behind the scenes, check out deliverfund.org because they will give you, they're a nonprofit, man. They'll throw some intel shit up there and go after these people. And they got 24/7 reach, man.
Nice. Well, man, I don't know. I really enjoyed having you on, man. Thank you for
anytime.
Sharing what you know and your experience, and that's super appreciated.
Snib has put this in comments a few times. 75 hard almost ended my marriage. We've seen that like 1,000. We've seen you post that every time you've posted it. One day, maybe just private message us and let us know how 75 hard.
He really wants to give us that message out there. Hey, but real quick, I'm dead serious. This. You guys see this shirt? This is not from Tactical Animals. This is like a Black Rifle shirt, a cock with a gun. And if you go to tacticalanimals.io, there's 3 different animals: Hambo, which is a pig, a war cat, which is a cat, and the Labinator. There's 3 different like tactical animals. Use the code Wolfpack. All proceeds from sales today go directly to Eric Tansey to help him with his cable fund, so that he does not have to beg from. He does not have to go down the. He was almost trafficked today. Eric was almost trafficked today, just to make this show happen, and we don't want to see that anymore.
Trafficked for a cable.
So go to tacticalanimals.io, support Eric and his sanity and safety by going there today, and be sure to go subscribe to Jason's Instagram. Give his podcast a listen. Bring him up. I don't want him to surpass us in the rankings. That we can't go that far. But let's bring him a little bit closer to where we're at. Which Jason is more aware of how our show's doing than I am, because I don't even know what Listen Notes is, but I do now. I get research. Like, I don't know. I'm literally just an idiot on the internet, and Eric is a C student at best. Both of us were mediocre cops with a podcast now, so I don't know what happened.
We just have the best. We have the best ad reads in the biz. So if you want to catch us, you got to step up your ad read.
We're actually thinking about a second show that is nothing but ad reads.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The ad podcast. Yep. People pay us and we just do ad reads. That's it.
If I could plug one thing, I have a new show coming up next week, Protagonist versus Antagonist. It's going to be with BC Sanders, who's been on the show.
He's been on the show, baby.
Hell yeah. We're going to be talking pop culture and a bunch of other different shit. But our first up is Predator versus Rambo, 1980 style. And we're going to be talking a whole bunch of shit on there too. So it'll be fun.
Rambo
wins every fucking time.
Rambo wins every time. Come on, let's take a straw poll in the comments. We'll get this party started right now. Rambo every time. It's like Batman versus Superman. Superman, come on, Batman's real. He has tools that he uses, and he's just good old fashioned grit. Same thing with Rambo. He's not a superhero. He's just a freaking badass. The Predator, he's an alien.
He doesn't know shit. But check it out on my IG. I just put up this clip, and I didn't realize it did it. It's pretty neat. It's Rambo, and when he goes up against the sheriff and puts his knife up against his throat, and it's Predator when he's beating the shit out of Arnold. And I'm like, I got to go with Rambo because he's like fucking all dirty. He's like, I think Rambo, but we'll see what BC has to say next week.
Yeah, I mean, you got the Gatling gun scene, but I don't know if that holds up to the M60 scene where he's slinging the pig around at the end, where he's shooting all the electronics.
Wasn't an M60 what your original vision was for you? You were carrying around, schlubbing around gear, and
that's what I did, man.
M60, I want to be that guy. That's
I love the M60. If I could have an M60 right now, I think that fuck Arnold. Yeah, Rambo's gonna win. And I think fucking if BC comes up and says Predator, man, I don't know. We'll see. Next week
we should make a tactical animal with a goose. Definitely, those Canadian
goose.
They're so mean. I saw it. Don't bother me or something. It was like a don't tread on me with a snake, but it was Canadian on the back of a truck, and it was like a Canadian goose, like please leave me alone or something like that. Like a real super nice Canadian thing.
I'm getting this war cat team, man. I love this war cat one.
We need a cat with
the
an
Labinator. Oh, you definitely need it. If you have a goose with an M60, I'll buy like 6 of those. I'll just be like hanging them out all the time. Like, who wants
the
a
next
goose
design?
With a 60?
It's the goose, man.
We need a tactical Harambe in there somewhere.
Well, it's also on the list. We've got it on the list. Yeah.
Can we just give a moment of silence for Harambe?
Yeah.
And
then
hold on, I got to pull something out for Harambe. What? Below the table.
Oh my god. Oh yeah.
That's the phrase.
Harambe. It is. You're right. You're right.
I'm just capitalizing. All right, we'll shut up now. Okay. Thanks for listening, guys. Thanks, Jason, for coming on. And until next time, because we can't stop, we won't stop. That's
Cheers.
It. Guns up, giddy up. We out.